What's going on, everybody? So if you haven't heard the news in the last few days, a Blue Beetle movie is in development. Now, if you're asking yourself, Juice, what the hell does this have to do with Batman? Just sit tight and I'll tell you exactly how Batman can play into a Blue Beetle movie. The website The Wrap is reporting that a Blue Beetle movie is in development, and it is going to be a Latino-led Blue Beetle, which if you don't know anything about the Blue Beetle, the third version of the Blue Beetle is Jaime Reyes, a teenager that bonds with the Scarab that gives him the power of the Blue Beetle. Now, obviously, this is huge for me being a Latino myself, seeing that there's finally going to be a Latino superhero, a lead superhero, not somebody that's like a side character or whatever. No, an actual, the main character of a movie that is going to be a Latino superhero. This is amazing for me. Like, I'm super pumped about this. Blue Beetle is pretty awesome if you've seen him in Teen Titans, or if you've seen him in Young Justice, or whatever. Whenever you've seen him, Brave and the Bold, Batman, anything. I have always thought Blue Beetle is pretty awesome, and just knowing that we're actually going to be getting a Blue Beetle movie has made me pretty pumped. The Wrap's article says that the movie is going to be written by Mexican-born writer Garrett Dunnett Alcácer, who is currently writing Universal Studios' reboot of Scarface. So that's pretty cool there, because they are going to be getting a Latino writer for a Latino-based superhero movie, which I think is pretty awesome. Other cool, notable things that maybe it's just for me, Jaime Reyes' character in the comic books is from El Paso, Texas. I am from Texas myself. So again, that is another thing. Although I will not, I wouldn't be surprised if for filming reasons, they make him from LA or they make him from San Diego or someplace like that so they can film the movie or in LA if they need to do that. But it would be pretty awesome for them to actually bring the production to Texas and actually film in Texas and just keep it original. Just keep it from where he's from and do all of that jazz, which would be really cool. Now, I know what you're thinking. Juice, that's all cool and all, but where does Batman come into play? Well, if you're a fan of any of the DC animated series, you know that Blue Beetle and Batman have come across each other a lot. They've been in the latest Justice League action cartoon. They were also in Batman's Brave and the Bold, and Blue Beetle was a big part of Young Justice, which had a bunch of Batman cameos in there too. So they are no stranger to each other. It's not like Blue Beetle has never met Batman before, and even the previous Blue Beetles have had run-ins with Batman as well. But one of the coolest run-ins I think that has happened between Blue Beetle and Batman is the one that happened in his 2017 Rebirth run, was in issue 12 where Batman paid Blue Beetle a visit. So the backstory here is that Batman sees Blue Beetle on the news because apparently a fight just happened and there's been some destruction, and Batman doesn't like people just coming in and destroying things. So when he sees this Blue Beetle character causing destruction, he wants to know all about them. So you see that in this comic book page, which I just want to point out, if you read the caption, it says San Antonio, which is where I'm from, and it says that Blue Beetle's its superhero, and I'm like, what? Sorry, that's just the fanboy in me just thinking that it would be really cool if they filmed some of this movie in my city. So back to the story, specifically in issue 12, Batman does pay that visit to El Paso, Texas to go look up on the Blue Beetle, but first he goes to Ted Kord Industries. If you don't know, Ted Kord was the second Blue Beetle, and he's asking Ted Kord, he's like, yo, what is the deal with this new Blue Beetle? In this storyline, Ted Kord is the mentor to Jaime Reyes, who is the new Blue Beetle. So the Batman goes to him and he's like, what are you doing with this kid? He's dangerous, blah, 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 blah. Of course, Ted Kord is like, no, we got this under control. Like, I'm helping him, blah, blah, blah. And of course, Batman is not having any of it. And what eventually happens later on in the comic book is Blue Beetle ends up getting into a fight with the supervillain, and Batman is watching the whole fight and he wants to see how it plays out. And he notices that, Blue Beetle's able to hold his own, but they are causing a lot of destruction. So Batman eventually intervenes in the fight and stops everything, so no lives are lost or no more destruction happens in the city. So after Batman saves the day, he gives a scolding to Jaime, who's starstruck that Batman is actually there. And Batman says that, Blue Beetle's made a fool of himself and that he's actually going to take in this maniac, where Blue Beetle is pleading with Batman. He's telling him, like, no, man, like, this guy's not a maniac. He needs help. Batman being Batman, he kind of pushes back at Blue Beetle, like, what do you mean he needs help? And Blue Beetle's like, no, this guy's just really sick, and aren't we supposed to have a little kindness in this job, Like, don't we gotta have a little bit of kindness? Don't we have to have a little bit of heart when it comes to dealing with these kind of things? And Batman just ends up swinging away, saying that he really likes what the kid was doing and that he has potential. And of course, it ends with freaking Jaime Reyes being like, holy crap, Batman thinks I have potential! So with that whole little breakdown, imagine Batman making a cameo in a Blue Beetle movie. So this is my thought, and this is what I think the movie will happen. I don't know if it'll have Batman. I think it'll be cool to have Batman, but I do think that the movie is going to center around Ted Kord. That way they can kind of please old school Blue Beetle fans. I think it'll be Ted Kord mentoring Jaime Reyes in this movie. That way we have an older Blue Beetle and a younger Blue Beetle, and they can kind of work together and they can have this really cool dynamic. Also, it sets up for a Ted Kord possible Booster Gold movie in the future if they want to kind of do that, which I think would be really awesome. But you still have the younger Blue Beetle, which is the cooler Blue Beetle in my opinion. So that might be kind of a cool dynamic there. And then of course, if you've ever seen any of the animated series, you know that the Scarab has a mind of its own, and it kind of destroys things, or it kind of reacts in a way that Jaime might not actually want it to react. So it could be a cool way for Batman to swoop in and kind of study the Scarab, or just kind of study Jaime Ramirez, or I should say Reyes, in this situation. And, you know, it just might be a cool little thing. And I also think that, you know, with Matt Reeves going to do the Batman movie, he wants to make a younger Batman. They're going to get away from Affleck and all that jazz. It might be cool to give that new actor that they're going to bring in a really big contract, kind of like they did Nick Fury in the Marvel movies, and just have him cameo in a bunch of different movies, because that's kind of what Batman does in the comic books. Batman is everywhere in the DC comic books. If you ever just go to a comic shop and you read them, you'll probably see Batman on multiple different issues. Like, he'll be in an Aquaman, he'll be in Wonder Woman, he's just everywhere because he's freaking the Batman. So I think that they should take the comic book approach and just make Batman cameo in movies. He doesn't have to save the day or anything. He just has to show up. Even with it being a teenager in Blue Beetle, what if he just showed up and said, like, I've been watching you, and I think you should be a part of this team over here called the freaking Teen Titans. But yeah, I think it would just be really cool and awesome to have a Batman cameo in this movie, because there's history there with Blue Beetle and Batman. And then it could just be, like I said, one of those things where you have Batman cameoing in other movies that maybe not everybody's going to go watch. Blue Beetle might be, you know, DC's version of Ant-Man. In terms of film style and how not everybody wants to go see Ant-Man, only some people will go. Like, it's not a super big blockbuster like a whole bunch of the other Marvel movies. But what could happen here is I think that this Blue Beetle movie is probably going to fall more along the lines of like a Spider-Man Homecoming. I feel like those would be on the same level. So I think it's going to be like, you know, kind of high school kind of thing, very jokey here, but have some really serious badass moments at the same time. I don't know. That's my opinion. But yeah, so that is the way I think Batman could and should fit into this movie somehow. See? Ow! That freaking hurt if you heard my hand hit my desk. But anyways, guys, that's it. Blue Beetle movie coming to the DCEU eventually. I think that's going to be really awesome. What are your thoughts on a possible Blue Beetle movie? And who should be in this movie if not Batman? Who should be making a cameo in this movie? Because it feels like every DC movie has a badass cameo somehow. But anyways, leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Guys and gals, we just started doing all things Batman content on here. This was the latest video that I made that is involving Gotham. Please do go check it out. Give him some love. Give it some likes. Also, if you didn't know, we changed the title name to Bat from the Box. If you're just like, no, I want to freaking subscribe to Juice from the Box, you can do that at this link or in one of the things at the bottom in the end cards, because I changed my vlog channel to Juice from the Box, so you can definitely do that too. So yeah, anyways guys, as always, I'm your host Juicebox, or maybe it's Juice Wayne. I don't know, still thinking about an intro. Outro? Whatever. Have a nice day. Batman's awesome.